Well, to be honest, I didn't really have the right kind of mindset before. I was a bit of a perfectionist. If I didn't do well in something, I would rather not do it. So, what happened was we would have exams every year for ballet, and I started getting lower scores. At the same time, I was also starting to be exposed to sports because my brother was doing football and my friends were doing football. So, when I got to high school, I decided to switch to football, mostly also because of the influence of my peers. Actually, my exposure to martial arts was after college. Well, actually, I did judo in college just as my PE, and then after college, that's when I did MMA or mixed martial arts as a hobby, and I really wanted to compete, but I still am small, and it's hard for me to find opponents in MMA. So what happened was my coach told me to try Jiu-Jitsu instead because I could get to compete more regularly and there would be more female opponents. So I tried Jiu-Jitsu and I decided to stick to it because I really liked the fact that the focus was more on technique rather than strength and power, because I'm small and it gave me an opportunity to still maximize my potential even if most of the people were bigger than me. So I think that's one of the big reasons why I stuck to the sport. Well, sports and ballet, I think one similarity would be the emphasis on technique. Ballet is very, very technical, and I think every sport has like specific techniques that will make you reach your full potential, and I think that's one of the biggest similarities. And of course, it takes commitment for you to be able to succeed, but I think that goes even beyond sport and even beyond ballet. And it's also very physical, like it's very physically taxing. It's no joke. You have to be like really fit to do ballet, and exactly how you have to be conditioned for sport. Well, Jiu-Jitsu is a form of martial art, and the discipline that I do, it doesn't have striking. So I do Newaza or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is more focused on the grappling side of things, and grappling is more focused on the ground game. So for example, in Judo, it's more focused on the throws. So you start standing up. In Jiu-Jitsu, you also start standing up, but the match really starts when one person gets on the ground. That's when things start getting exciting. Well, I agree that there is that kind of a stigma because Jiu-Jitsu is a combat sport, it's a martial art, and people commonly think that this sport, you have to be like really strong and you have to be really tough. But to be honest, it's actually the total opposite. In the beginning, I didn't really think too much of it because I've already been exposed to sport, and martial arts was something that was fascinating to me. But I think that there is that common notion of how you should be if you were to get into martial arts. And like I said, it's a total opposite. Like, for example, there's this guy called Mikey Musumeshi. He's like a multiple-time world champion in Jiu-Jitsu. And if you see him, you won't even think he's an athlete because he looks like a total nerd. But he's like one of the best in the world. And it's because he's really, really smart. And his emphasis is really on technique and like breaking down movement and like knowing what movements will defeat certain types of techniques, and he's really, really good at that. And he defeats like much bigger opponents, and he looks really scrawny compared to them. And that's one of the big reasons why I stuck to this sport, because I'm really small. I'm only 5 feet tall, and the fitness, that strength and conditioning, it will naturally be developed as you stick to the sport, because of course you're lifting people. Part of it is you're really gonna get stronger, but you don't have to be strong to begin with to do jiu-jitsu, and even to excel in jiu-jitsu. It's really more of a mind game, and I really love that about this sport, and you will never get sick of it. You will never get tired because it will really challenge your creative juices. Well, first of all, you really won't know if it's meant for you or not unless you try it. So my advice would be to give it a try. If you have any interest in it, then give it a try. If you don't like it, then you don't have to continue it, but you have to try for you to know. And sometimes also, it may not be appealing in the beginning, but if you stick to it, sometimes it might grow on you. So there's also a matter of consistency in play. I would say that if there's even a little bit of a spark of interest, don't leave right away if you don't like it in your first try. Try to go at it for a few months, and if you really don't like it, then there's no pressure to continue, but at least just try. Well, on how to achieve their dreams, I think first and foremost, the most important thing is to know your why. Like, why do you do what you do? Because I think that will make you push through all the obstacles that you will for sure face along the way. And once you know your why, it's not enough to know your why, of course. You have to really commit to it and really give everything that you have every step of the way. And when I say every step of the way, I mean every step of the way, like preparation phase, even the rest phase. Cannot forgo proper rest periods because that's actually part of the discipline in sport or in ballet. And aside from the commitment, I think another advice that I could give would also be to write your dreams down, because if it's written down, it's different as opposed to it just being in your head. Well, that's what I like doing. I like to write things down, and when I write it down, I can actually create a plan for it and make it more concrete and actionable. And with that, even if it's written down, I think that it's also important for you not to be disappointed if things don't go your way, because sometimes we're really not in control of how things can be, like where we are now, where the entire world is now in the middle of this crisis. So even if things don't go your way, don't let that stop you. Remember your why and just keep going. Well, Fight to Protect, it's actually what my shirt is for, what I'm wearing now. Fight to Protect is a movement that aims to fight against child sexual violence through sports. And what it is it uses sport as a platform for prevention, meaning we use sport as a platform to raise awareness on this particular issue because it's very difficult to talk about. And sports is something that interests people. So mixing those two, I think that it gets the message across in a more effective way. And part of that use of sport as a platform is also connecting people with the organizations that are doing something about the issue. So we don't want people to stop at awareness, at knowing the issue, knowing that it's going on, but we want people to actually do something about it, to get involved and to be part of the fight. And lastly, Fight to Protect is also a way for us to use sport as a tool to help in the restoration of survivors. So the children who have actually experienced sexual violence, and our goal is for them to become from victims to survivors and eventually advocates themselves. And the way that we do that is by sharing sport and allowing them to experience the different benefits that sport can bring in one's life, and really giving access to those that don't have access to sport, and allowing them to be developed by sport.